How are you?
All right. Right. Welcome, welcome. See some people joining in. I'm going to get started in just a couple of minutes here. All right. So welcome to our summer wellness series. Glad that you were able to make it with us this evening. We are looking at the entire summer wellness through some different lenses than maybe you are accustomed to. Behavioral wellness is a large part of wellness and encompasses a lot of different aspects. And so for the month of July, we're looking at conflicts and how to manage conflict. One of the big parts of our wellness is our relationships. And so last week we looked at communication as property, and we talked briefly about, conflict as property. And we talked briefly about seeing others as objects, interfering with what we want, and trying to remember to see each other as human beings so that we can be of the right mindset. So this week, we're going to continue our discussion, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But thankful to everyone that decided to join this evening. And we'll go ahead and get our check-in started. And my check-in question for each person tonight, just if this is your first time here, it is not something that you have to answer, but certainly the more we participate, the more impact that it is for each of us. But consider the question. If you feel like commenting in the chat or coming off of mute and saying it to the group, both of those are acceptable. Question I have for us tonight is to think about a recent conversation or interaction that went particularly well or poorly. And what do you think it made it go that way? A recent conversation you've had, and conversation or interaction that went well, poorly, and what do you think made it go that way? That is where we begin our check-in.
I'll start us off. I was in a mediation earlier today, and that conversation got off to a hot mess of a start, and when we do the mediation, everybody has a position, right? And so when individuals start out, they're not actually wanting to negotiate, or their idea of negotiating is everybody did this wrong to me, everybody did this wrong to me, everybody else but me is bad. And so we had to get through the initial phases of the anger before we could actually begin to have conversations. The idea of individuals being not wanting to give in too soon, and so they show a big bluster. So I think that's what threw it into the negative scope right off the bat.
Got it. Got it. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Recent conversation or interaction that went particularly well or poorly? What do you think made it go that way? Clifton says it went well because the understanding between us, as well as the laughter and openness during the conversation. All right, all right. Appreciate you sharing that with the group. The openness during the conversation. Anyone else? Just checking in.
Hello.
Hello.
So I guess having a teenager, every conversation is can either go either way. So I have to say that the most recent conversation went well and was not what I expected. So that was good. And I guess what went well about it was the receiver had an understanding of the situation. So I feel like that because of that, the maturity level and all that was better, that we were able to understand each other better.
Okay, yeah. Understanding between the sender and receiver. Got it, got it. Anyone else? Just checking in. Think about a recent conversation or interaction you might have had that went particularly well or poorly. And what do you think made it go that way?
I have a quick story to share. Actually, it wasn't an interaction, it was more of a text. And I thought I was clear when I sent the text. And my friend didn't take it that way. And boy, she called me the next minute and was like, "What? You want me to do all this stuff?" And I said, "Oh, no, that wasn't what I meant." And so it reminded me how communication is really important, and I shouldn't have probably text to begin with, but in the end, it was all good, and we understood each other.
Got it, got it. So maybe the medium that you decided to use to communicate your thoughts could have been done differently. Appreciate you sharing that. Anyone else?
This is Andrea. Salutations, everybody.
Greetings.
I had a recent conversation go sideways. Doesn't happen often for me these days, but this went particularly quickly. And I think it was probably because I refused to be silent. I was like, I'm not going to just stop talking because you're spouting insanity at me. I'm not. So after I reined that in, then it de-escalated. But yeah, that was not that great.
Yeah, yeah. An unwillingness to step back in a moment. I got it. I got it. Forging right on ahead, regardless of what's being said. Yeah, yeah. I had a recent interaction that went very poorly for me, and there will be a conversation forthcoming. Yeah. Someone asked for my number to share with me something they found important and insightful and impactful that they wanted me to preview. I gave them my number, and later on that day, not only did they send me a link to that YouTube video, but over the next several hours, they sent me 7 or 8 clippings and articles and findings and a variety of the other different things. And so for those that may not know me, that will immediately prompt a follow-up conversation. I am not one that allows people to treat me as a number. So don't associate things that you want to send with me with group text, which thankfully this person did not. It was directly to me, or that would have been an immediate conversation. The fact that it was just to me, I'm going to wait until the next time I see them. But you know, I think it went that way because I did not give proper parameters at the beginning. And so I take full responsibility for that. And the next time we meet, I will share with them a full list of boundaries and parameters at which they will need to abide by to communicate with me. Or otherwise, I will politely ask them not to continue to communicate to me outside of face-to-face interactions, because we do not view our digital communication through the same lens. So yeah. All right. So tonight, appreciate everybody sharing their stories, adding to what we are talking about. And you will see that the check-in does have a tie-in with what we're talking about tonight. So as we look at conflict and managing conflict through the month of July, tonight specifically, we're looking at communication styles. And so when we talk about interactions and communication, some of you brought those things up. And so this is right along with that. Understanding your communication style and communication style of others. So this will be fun tonight. We have some things for you to do. So we'll get right into it. So we checked in already, and we will look at defining the different communication styles. There are several different ones. As with all of these considerations, they evolve over time. They are reworded. Don't be distracted if one says a doer and another one says a director. But some of the main ones we will look at, there's 4 main ones, and they're not all called the same. So we'll get into that a little later. And then we will have an opportunity for you to participate, if you choose, to find out your own communication style. Have a little query that you can do. And then we will look at how we can use the knowledge of communication styles to build stronger relationships. And then we'll close out and look at moving forward and hear from you on how the evening went. So let's keep going right on into it. So hopefully the goal of our time together over the next 40 minutes or so will be an increased self-awareness and adaptability to the idea of communication styles. You'll get some knowledge about how to manage conflict if you find yourself in conflict with friends or loved ones or coworkers or other people. If you, in any scenario, work on a team, stuff we talk about tonight, I assure you will help you with those team dynamics, whether your team is a professional team, or maybe it's a team family. We're just parents and children trying to get along in the same household, making things happen. And we will give you some tools to strengthen the relationships. And as we discussed last week, interpersonal means relationships with other. Intrapersonal means to yourself. It is a frustrating thing for me. Inter should be internal, but inter is external and intra is internal. I didn't make up the rules, but that's what those words mean. So we're looking at relationships with each other. Last week, we looked at the conflicts within ourselves. So communication styles are basically just how different individuals express themselves and interact with each other. So the terms we'll be using tonight are analyzer, thinker, those are the same thing, controller, director, supporter, relator, and promoter, socializer. There are styles that have it listed as passive, passive aggressive, so they have them like that. They have them as doers, influencer. So there's a lot of different terms, but regardless of the four, I think I've seen a list with maybe 5 or 6 different styles. There's overlap. So this isn't about one person just being just being this one communication style. It's what you prefer. And I will encourage all of us that as we go through the information tonight, think of a context and then kind of keep yourself in that context. And what I mean by that is you probably communicate different at work than you do at home. You probably communicate different with your colleagues than you do with your loved ones. So you might be a analyzer at work and you might be a director at home, right? So all of us have different things and different ways that we like to interact with others based on the context of where we're at. So if you go through the process tonight and you say, well, I'm kind of all over, kind of just answer the questions. We're going to have an intake in a little bit, and go through that with just that one context in your mind. So let's go through these real quick. Does anyone already know what type of communication style they are most dominant in? And they're willing to share? Some don't know, some know, they're just going to keep it too close to the chest.
I don't know, but I'm definitely not that last one.
Promoter, socializer, doesn't sound like it.
I am not that.
So let's get into it a little bit. It might be easier to know what we're not than know what we are. So the analyzer thinker, these are people that are detail oriented. They're logical, methodical. They focus on accuracy and structure. And they often approach situations in a way with a critical analytical mindset. So think absent of emotion. Something has happened and they are dicing it up, looking at it. How does this apply? What are the contexts? What are the objectives? Were they met? Were they not met? That's your analyzer thinker. Next, we have a controller director. This style is characterized by decisiveness, efficiency, and a focus on results. Controllers are assertive, direct, and often take charge of situations. So you're thinking of a person, and you should be thinking of yourself or people that you work with and know. See, it's helpful to know both. Where do they fall? These are people that they're rarely short on an opinion. Something has happened. They have a thought. They will share the thought, and they perform well in a vacuum. They are not ones that when I do my circles, the director controllers have the hardest time getting comfortable with silence. They often see silence as, there's been a question. There's no answer. whether the question was important to me or not, there seems to be a pause. I will formulate an answer. I will include my answer so that we can get this presentation going on and forward. So come across them from time to time. Next, we have supporter relator. Relators are empathetic and patient. They're also nurturing. These are people that they're more concerned about the relationship and harmony. They're excellent listeners, and they value cooperation. You know, well, let's just do that then for the banquet. Well, before we just make that decision, let's consider how many people are impacted. We don't have Cliff and Norma at the table. They're running a little late. They called. Let's get everybody around and have a consensus to make sure people don't feel left out before we. That's your supporter and relator. And then lastly, we have the promoter and socializers. These are socializers are enthusiastic. They're persuasive and outgoing. These are the people that even if you don't feel like doing it, the energy they bring to it, you're like, yeah, okay. I guess I'll come up and see if I can put that cookie on my head and do that minute to win it in front of these other people, even though it's not something they make it look fun. They act like it's going to be okay. And so they thrive on interaction and enjoy being at the center of attention. And they often inspire others with just their energy alone. So with that being said, you have a kind of a brief summary of those. Wouldn't it be nice if you knew what your communication style was? Feel like I'm in an infomercial, so I will continue that theme. But wait, do we have something just for you? Just before you thought there was no way you could know, this evening, woo, do we have time for you? All right. So I don't know how well each of you are able to navigate. I see some of you on a phone. And are you able to do two things at once on your phone and browse the internet? I don't know. I tried several different ways to put this into a way that we could do it together. Every way I came up with was very convoluted. And so the easiest is to just help people navigate their digital incompetency. If that's where you find yourself, I'm here to help. The rest of it was way too much explaining. So what you have in your chat is a link. Just post it in the chat. That will take you directly to a website. It is free. You don't need to put in your email. You don't have to give up anything. There are quick questions. It takes a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. If you can click on that, and that will walk you through finding your communication style. All you have to do is follow the instructions and then join us back here. So during that time, feel free to click on a link and go ahead. And if you're struggling, I will be here throughout the entire process. Just take yourself off mute. Tell me, hey, I found the site, but I don't know if I'm at the right place. Any questions you might have, I'll be here to help you. Outside of that, I will stop talking so you can read and not be distracted. When you are done, just give me a thumbs up. And that way I'll know when everybody's finished. hopefully you are completed or almost complete. I think everyone is putting their things in the chat. So here's the thing. This is good. This is good. So we got do we have one of everyone in here? For the most part. Yeah. So question. Are you typing in the word that it gave you, or are you making an assumption based on the description? Did everyone type in the word that it gave you?
I typed in the word they gave me.
Okay. That's what my assumption was. So here's why this is funny. This is why my wife considers me a unicorn sometimes, because of how my mind is all jacked up in different areas. So when I was testing this out, I said, oh, this could be bad because there are different titles and I want to focus on the 4 main ones that are widely accepted. And what it gave me back was doer. Because when you are not dominant in one area, and depending on, there's overlap. So if we had time, there's some that show a dial in how the different ones overlap. And so when you mix several ones, then they create new terms, but those aren't the main terms. So when I saw doer, I said, yeah, that's not one of the. So I went around to some other tests. I tried some other tests and I said, no, this one seems to be the easiest. You know, there's one I found with like 4 questions and they came up with some terms. I was like, that's just made up. That's somebody that just went on a made a website and they done grabbed information from everybody else. And then I found another one that you basically had to sign over a will, and you'd probably get a bunch of emails afterwards. And then I looked and said, okay, we'll try it, but I was very interested. And then you guys affirmed it with the answers that you're getting. So was anyone, I see Clifton thought he would be an analyzer thinker and confirmed it. You got Daryl as a promoter. That's surprising to me. That's out of left field. Him as a socializer, completely surprising. Was there anyone else that we have Norma as a supporter, Lisette as an analyzer, and Andrea as an analyzer? Was there anybody surprised at their style that they'd be willing to share? Or did it match? Matched?
So
I am so often quiet and shy and demure, and
Yeah.
this just really seems like I'll have to review this again. This idea of me being a promoter and socializer, and
Yeah. I was actually,
what is
yeah,
this? What is this? What is this?
I was questioning the validity when those results came back. It kind of threw everything off. So I think maybe if you take it again, we'll see. Norma, you had something?
yeah, so before I took the test, I was thinking supporter, so it matched. But I have to say, when I was younger, definitely promoter. So it's interesting how over time my communication style has changed.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Lisette, you had something?
Yes. I wasn't as surprised as the analyzer, but I thought maybe I would have gotten a mixture, or maybe like a half and half. And I don't know what the other names would have been, but or if these are all the names, but something to the extent of supporter too. But somehow I leaned on the analyzer, and so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Good thing you didn't analyze anything.
Yeah, nothing like an analyzer analyzing the results as they're describing their surprise at the results that they have just analyzed. Nancy, I see your hand up.
Yes, I guess I'm trying to just catch up because I just joined in. So I just see that there's a test that I should do when I have it, when I'm not driving. Sorry.
Yes. Or you will be considered something else other than any of the options on the test. So yeah, you can take that link and do it later. Just going through communication styles, and that was a test to figure out which one that you are.
Okay,
So my question with that is there anyone, Norma, I'm glad you shared that you were you were one way and then it's kind of changed as you've gotten older. My question is, does anyone think of how theirs would shift in different settings? Or do you feel you're that way across all your settings, both professional, personal, or are you pretty much, this is who I am now, this is what everybody gets? Is there any variance? Norma?
So I'm very different at work. Because of the position that I'm in. So this one that I'm referring to is just how I am. But at work, I'm probably, oh, I don't know what I am. But I'm more serious.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that works. That works. Anyone else? Any difference? Any variance?
This is Andrea again. I when I was working, I don't think I was any different with my communication at work than I was elsewhere. I used a different tone at work, I can say that. But my style was basically the same. I'm direct and let's get to the facts and what do we have to get done. Everybody get to it. So that's how I am.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Not a lot of time for small talk. I am fascinated by
I
my
had to
middle
learn
daughter.
to ask people how their weekend was.
Yes. I do not find myself very open to those types of interactions. But yet in leading a church, being a leader in a church, there were several things that I needed to take. It was not work, but it was definitely a different context, filled with a variety of different needs. I believe that word is capitalized. And the desire for a church leader to be an intermediary for all of the needs, simply because they have a title. So yeah, it's interesting. So all right, as we move through this, the benefit of understanding these communication styles, and there's three key points that I'd like us to just consider tonight before we close out. Knowing that you have a communication style, spending some time, it's easy to research. There are next week I will give you something that you can have to keep. You can download it from the chat. It's a little practice to give some scenarios so you can kind of pick out, based on the communication that's going on, who are what styles are being in place. It's helpful because, as we discussed last week, a lot of times we see other people as objects and not as people. And so when you start understanding that different communication styles exist, and you try to understand them and see the differences and strengths and weaknesses and why things might happen, hopefully that should promote more empathy, right? There's a difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is, I'm sorry that happened to you. And empathy is me trying to ask myself, what would it take for me to feel those feelings so that I can empathize with the feelings you're having? And so by taking time to learn these styles that are not our own, it will give us a greater understanding for people, certainly that we work with, but also in our families, right? So we, if you haven't figured out, and if you don't have kids, that's fine. If your kids are very little and they're not quite communicating for themselves yet outside of noises and gestures, that's okay. But hopefully you understand that generations communicate differently. And so, understanding not only your style, but what that style looks like or could potentially look like across different generations is also something that would enhance the empathy and hopefully build communication between you and that teenager, that toddler, that young adult, understanding those styles. The next key point of understanding the communication styles that I will share with you is that it also helps with conflict resolution. If there are people in the room, there are probably conflicts in the room. As we talked about last week, conflict is not the cause, conflict is the messenger. And we looked at sometimes people are conflicted within themselves. You got people that are just irritable. They probably could have left their job a long time ago, but they didn't. And so they would thrive in a better environment, but they are telling themselves that there is no other environment that would hire them or is that available, and so they stay there. So each day they come into work, conflict with themselves, doing a job that they no longer have passion for, that is not tied to who they are or what they decide to do, convincing themselves that the check is the responsible thing to do. And now you came in and accidentally forgot to turn in something, move in a certain way, and now they have informed you that your existence in life is the cause of everything wrong with their life. But understanding different communication styles and being able to align those different approaches with different people that you interact with, it will help you eat more easily, address issues of conflict, and have different styles to tap into. Remember, we just have dominant styles. These are not things that we can't do. The analyzer has the ability to engage and be enthusiastic and inspire people. It's just not their norm. It's not their default. So if you're in a situation where maybe you and your partner are delivering a presentation or having to get buy-in, and both of you are analyzers, or one's an analyzer and one's a director, somebody's got to step up and be a socializer. Somebody's got to be a promoter. You can do it for, the 15, 30 minutes of the presentation, or otherwise the audience is done. They're done with everything you're trying to do. So understanding those can also be used in situations of conflict. And then lastly, I will say that the awareness of communication styles enhances the collaboration, right? And so in life, we're going to work with one another, right? These are the things that we're going to do. None of us are by ourselves. We're all connected. Some connections are closer than others, but we're all connected. And if you are working and find yourself on a team, like I said, the ability to, whether your team is at home, whether your team is at work, being an efficient team heavily relies on your ability to communicate. I see Nancy is a doer. So I don't know if Nancy, you were on here where I explained that I am also a doer. And it is not one of the four main descriptors. What that means is that you are a combination of multiple ones. So your communication style is more flexing. And so welcome to the doer team. We are the people that depends on where we're at and what we're doing and who it is. There's a lot of factors that go in to which communication style we will use. So as we move to closing out this topic, any questions or thoughts on the uses of communication styles, where you think it might help, anything that we've discussed so far, before I share this final thought and give you another opportunity to respond?
So I had one thing, and that was that the idea of being a controller or an analyzer in very specific circumstances. So if there is an emergency or something that must be done in a short period of time, my promoter tendencies can give way to a controller tendency, wanting to design things and move things along. Yeah, and in those rare instances, those rare instances, rare instances when I will want to be quiet for periods of time and to reflect, rare instances, the whole idea of having the quietness, the analyzer can come out. It can be useful, but it requires quiet, and so it's a rare instance.
Yeah, I'm sure it requires solitude as well. Typically, socializers are well intended to be controllers and analyzers. But if there is someone else there, sometimes the default throws those best intentions to the wayside. So solitude might be there as well. Any other comments or thoughts? Appreciate that, Daryl.
I was
yeah.
Oh, hold on. Go ahead, Clifton.
Oh, sorry.
said that I was the complete opposite of Daryl because I love the solitude. I love the quiet. I'm an analyzer by day and night, but most my job requires me to, well, I would say require, but I am, most people think I'm an extrovert because of how I move and respond when I'm in a group of individuals. But if I know the people, then yeah, I would say I'm more the promoter or the person that, can say what needs to be said. But if I know nobody, I'm very much in the corner, quiet. I'm not even there. I don't even want to be there. Like I want to be at home. But yeah, I would say it depends on the situation that I'm in. But by day and night, I am an analyzer.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. What's that?
No, it's interesting you said that because Clifton, because my thoughts, that's why I think I was analyzing the analyzer concept, because yes, I live in an analyzing world, and that's how I am structured. But when it comes to work, I bring that to the table. But I bring it to the table with a lot of benefit of the doubt, a lot of grace, a lot of support. So that's why I said what I said earlier, because I feel like, yes, I live like that for me in my home. But when I come to work, I bring that extra piece that gives grace and benefit of the doubt to others.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. All right. As we wrap up, something to keep in mind is there is diversity in who we are as people, right? There are things that we like and things that we don't. Each day that we learn more about ourselves and learn more about others, and specifically spend time learning how to communicate better, improve our communication skills. We learn to interact a little more effectively, right? And this idea of paying attention to who we are and what we do is about creating environments where people can thrive. And each of us has that opportunity. We don't often focus on it. I know I don't. But every opportunity that I interact with someone, based on how I communicate with them, can either help them to thrive, help them to improve, or maybe their interaction with me has caused them to want to survive or to withdraw. And so that's a lot of power just based on how we present, what we say, how we say it. And so as we look at our communication styles, yes, they will evolve over time. Most of us communicate one way with one group of people and another way with other groups of people to varying degrees. But regardless of what your style is, I would encourage you to look for ways that you can create spaces when you're communicating with people that helps people to thrive. Look for each interaction with somebody that when they leave you, you have presented yourself in a way that even if they are disgruntled, even my middle daughter was sharing some of her work experiences, and her story reminded me of different interactions that I've had over the years. I spent probably a good 15 to 17 years in business-to-business sales and retail management. You don't start in retail management. The majority of retail managers started making minimum wage, doing the little stuff before you're promoted to even get behind a register. Until that, you're using all your intellect to just line items on a shelf beside and above and below each other. So, but you deal with a lot of people. And I usually found that the people that were managing me often sent me to deal with the disgruntled employees, because the more on tilt you get, the more I'm going to de-escalate. Now, I would like to say it's because I had a pure heart. I was younger, and the reason why I did it is because early on I found that when somebody is heated and you get calm, you could literally make their head explode. They are looking for you to escalate back. And when you don't, so for me, it was pure joy. When I tell you, like a waterfall off a spring just flowing over you with joy, that is what I felt. No, you're gonna return this. You're gonna return this. Yeah, we're not gonna return it. What'd you say to me? I can say it louder. We're not going to accept that return today. So yeah, so listening to my middle daughter and some of her interactions at her job, not in retail, she's on something else, but just dealing with a variety of people that come through. And recognizing now with a much more mature heart and mind that I do have to take responsibility for my presence. And I am committed to making sure that when I'm in the presence of other people, that it is helping them to thrive. I don't want to leave the person that checks me out at the grocery store I don't want them to feel like they have to survive, because most people nowadays, that's what they're trying to do. So if you're already at the survival level, I don't want to be the trigger that sends somebody below survival. I want to either enhance from surviving to thriving, or continue to help them thrive. All right. Any final thoughts? Thank you all for joining. Anything that you would hope that we come across over the next couple weeks? This is our checkout. Just one thing you either want to share that you learned or that you appreciate. Don't have to give 3 things, just one of those. Something you will share, something you learn, or something you appreciate. Daryl?
I appreciated that you didn't just pigeonhole us, but you said that there were places and times where we would and could be different, and that our label didn't keep us from growing, but you gave us the label so that we could grow. That was helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Something you'll share, something you appreciated, something you learned, or none of the above.
I appreciate everyone sharing. Somehow I related to everyone. At some point in my communication, especially Andrea, how you there's so many times where I feel like I need to say what is but something's holding me back. But no, I do appreciate everyone sharing, because I did relate.
Thank you. Yes, yes. It always enhances the time together when we all share our experiences. Anyone else?
Actually, I appreciated everyone as well. I also appreciated the test. I don't think I've taken that test before. I've done the communication test, the styles communication, but this is a little different. So I thought that this was a neat way of doing it, and I will be using it as a resource. Thank you.
Glad we could provide resources. Always willing to share other people's free resources. Yeah. I don't usually share my resources for free, but I am more than happy to share other people's free resources as often as I can. Anyone else? All right. Well, next week, we will be talking about the conflict continuum. A lot of people think that conflict is just a bad thing. But is there good conflict? Where can conflict be used? Where do we find ourselves? And is it possible, if we're all in agreement, that's a bad thing? I don't know. I don't know. Might have to invite somebody. Come back. But wait, there's more. I've been on my infomercial all night tonight. Gotta keep that theme going. So we welcome you back next week. That'll be our discussion. Thank you for adding to the development of me and helping me grow and learn. Hopefully we reciprocated that effort for you this evening. We will see you the next time you're able to join. You guys take care. Good night.